Hey everyone, and welcome to the presentation. My name is Russ Stevens, and today I'm going to show you how successful residential home builders are using a growth mindset to generate more sales for their building company, and more importantly, break through their self-limiting beliefs that are holding them back from growing their income. Now, before we get started, I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay and that you can see my screen. So please type in the chat box and let me know whereabouts in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or the USA that you are tuning in from. Thanks, Joseph, Kevin, Michaela, Paul, Winston. Good stuff. Cool. Now, so I can get a feel for who is online with me today, can I ask you to let me know what type of building work it is that you are primarily targeting? Is it new homes, renovations, commercial, or something else? Or even if you're not a builder, type in the chat box and just let me know what industry you're in. Great stuff. Thank you, guys, all builders. So the marketing has worked. Now, we do also have a couple of guests with us today from the Master Builders and the HIA in Australia, and also from the National Association of Home Builders in the USA. So welcome to you guys as well. Now, I do have another question that I'd like to ask you guys, and that is, how many projects are you targeting over the next 12 months? Just select the option that relates to how many jobs you expect to start this year, and that will enable me to make sure that I'm tailoring the presentation to be most relevant to your building company. Cool, great stuff. Thank you, guys. And finally, can you let me know what size jobs that you are targeting? Let me just bring that up. Now, some guys are focused on volume, and they tend to target a lower contract value in order to keep the jobs simpler, whereas other builders might be doing more complex builds, which has an impact on how the building company is structured, because custom homes require more problem solving through the build process. Now, your time is valuable, so I want to make sure that you get maximum value out of the next 45 minutes or so. Great stuff. Thank you, everyone. Now, from what you guys have shared with me, I think this is going to be a real eye-opener for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I'm guessing for a lot of you, this is probably not the first presentation that you've attended. So the first thing I want to mention is that if you are not earning the amount of money that your knowledge, experience, and effort deserves, then it's really not your fault, because this industry has unique challenges that are unlike any other. The sales process is extremely long and complicated, which means the cost to attract new clients is extremely expensive and risky. The liabilities associated with owning the building company are huge, because builders are an easy target for the licensing authorities, and competition is fierce because new builders enter the market with very little idea of pricing and give consumers unrealistic expectations about their budgets before disappearing 2 or 3 years later. And all that prevents you from winning jobs at decent margins that would allow you to invest in your building company and actually grow it. Now, some builders don't want to grow their building companies, and that's fine. But unless you're hitting double-digit net profit after drawings and expenses, then you certainly need to increase your margins. Now, if you thought that maybe you can't grow your building company to the size you want it to be because maybe you lack some business skills such as sales, marketing, or even leadership, I want you to put those negative thoughts to bed today, because the fact is, you can grow your building company to whatever size you want. You just need the right tools and guidance in order to get you there. Now, in the past, you may have told yourself that you're not a salesperson, or that you don't understand marketing, or even that you're just a builder and not a businessman, but that is complete rubbish. It is simply not true because all skills are learnable. So don't listen to that voice inside your head. Now, why do we do it? The fact is, our lizard brains evolved over thousands of years in order to protect us. It prevented us from taking risks that could have had fatal consequences. It told us not to venture outside the cave when we already had food in reserve. It told us not to risk everything by starting our own business. And it tells us not to ask for the sale in case we get rejected. So that's why we're here today, because I know you want more from your building company so that you can spend more of your time doing the things that you really want to do in life. And I want to show you how to make that happen during this presentation by sharing with you some easy but powerful techniques that have worked for other builders just like you. Now, my goal for this presentation is to help two types of residential home builders. For those who are currently struggling to make double-digit net profit, you're going to get the steps you need to take in order to join the top 20% of residential home builders who are earning 80% of the profits. And for those of you who are already in the top 20%, and I know some of you are, you're going to get the steps that will take you into the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 4% of residential home builders in Australia. However, if you have no desire to grow your building company in either revenue or net profit, then I can't help you, because if you have no ambition, then the next 45 minutes or so is going to be a complete waste of your time. Now, equally, if you think that this presentation will reveal a shortcut to success, then I'd encourage you to keep looking elsewhere, because I've been in business for over 35 years now. And the one thing that I can tell you about overnight success is that it takes years of work in order to get there. Now, there are exceptions, and that's why we read about them in the papers, because they are so rare, they are newsworthy. Now, fact is, there are two types of builders: those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Now, those builders with a fixed mindset believe their qualities are fixed traits that cannot change. They believe that talent alone leads to success. However, in a growth mindset, builders believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through education and practice, and that natural ability is merely just the starting point. Now, that belief creates a hunger for learning new things and a resilience that is essential for accomplishment. Now, the only way for you to continually increase your sales is by developing a growth mindset. And the only way for you to develop a growth mindset is by following the basic principles that are being covered in this presentation. Now, at this point, you may, or you certainly should be thinking, well, who's this guy to tell me what to do in my building company? So very, very briefly, I started working with builders back in 2011 as an online provider of workplace health and safety documentation, of all things. Now, at the time, my daughter, Sky Stevens, was studying marketing at university. However, she had become bored with what was being taught and was keen to get started in the real world. So we decided to set up Acris Services, which was a marketing agency for residential home builders. Now, things went well and the business grew, and it grew so well that we decided to expand into coaching builders directly on sales and marketing. And in 2014, we launched the Association of Professional Builders. Now, this gave us a unique insight into the challenges custom home builders were facing. However, it wasn't easy, and some of you guys can be pretty harsh, because when we first explained how to market a building company using lead magnets, we got some very bemused looks from builders. And at our very first event in Brisbane in Australia, one builder that had traveled from the Sunshine Coast with his salesperson literally got up and walked out when we started talking about charging for quotes. And in Melbourne, Some of the guys in the audience literally laughed out loud when we talked about margins and the importance of pricing in a double-digit net profit. But we kept going because we knew this was how business works. And when our clients started to get results, we had the proof and things got a lot easier. But really, it was all down to the early pioneers like Toby and Elizabeth Searle from Highwater Homes, who build custom homes in New South Wales, and Wayne White, who runs a professional renovations company in Queensland, who paved the way for what is now known as the Association of Professional Builders. And today, in addition to Toby, Elizabeth and Wayne, the Association of Professional Builders coaches more than 213 residential building companies in 5 countries, making it the largest coaching company for custom home builders in the world. Now, I don't say that to brag, but to simply give you context for the information that I'm about to share with you. So, why am I placing so much emphasis on mindset rather than simply focusing on strategies and tactics? Well, it all came about after we started coaching builders on sales and marketing back in 2014. Our ideal clients were residential home builders over the age of 25. However, we noticed something very interesting. The vast majority of builders who were over the age of 55 very clearly had a fixed mindset. They could not accept what we were saying. They argued on email, Facebook, and even at our live events. They could not accept that things could be done differently. Now, this was because they were in the final run to retirement. And for them to accept what we were saying as being true, they would also have to accept that they had wasted years of their life working for wages when things could have been so different. It was like that scene in The Matrix when Morpheus tells Neo, we never free a mind once it's reached a certain age because it's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go. Now, these builders couldn't accept that there was a better way to do things. The truth would have broken them. Interestingly, though, was the difference between the builders in the 25 to 35 age group and the 35 to 55 age group. Now, these guys were open-minded, and the younger builders were absolutely tearing it up. They were so successful so quickly, it took our breath away. We'd never seen anything like it. Now, the older group of builders, those in the 35 to 55, they also got good results, but it was taking significantly longer and they needed a lot more encouragement to get there. So while these younger guys were moving on to new things and getting even further ahead, the older group were getting a little left behind. So what caused it? Were they working harder, longer hours, or working faster? Both groups were excited about the information being shared and they were both eager to implement. However, what we noticed was that the 25 to 35-year-olds, they did everything without question or fear immediately. While the 35 to 55-year-olds, they hesitated, they second-guessed themselves, and they questioned each step. And as a result, their implementation was slower and in some instances half-baked. Now, although the older group didn't quite have a fixed mindset like those 55-year-old plus guys, the younger guys definitely had a growth mindset. Now, when a builder has a fixed mindset, they believe that their basic abilities, intelligence, and talents are fixed traits. Whereas in a growth mindset, builders believe that their abilities and intelligence can be developed with effort, learning, and persistence. So those old school builders that I mentioned earlier refused to hear how they could mark up their jobs by more than 15% and still win contracts. Now, they made a choice to remain in a fixed mindset. But the good news is that regardless of age, anyone can transition from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. It's all down to personal choice, and you have that choice today. So let me share something with you. Tony was a young builder who had taken the traditional route from being a carpenter to becoming a custom home builder. Now, Tony recently told me that back in 2014, when we first met, he had the mindset of a subcontractor: get work, do the work, get paid, and then rinse and repeat. Now, he believed there was no point in charging more because that would mean paying more tax. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it's how a lot of people think. And seeing as you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with, it's easy to see how an individual's thought process can be influenced by the group. Now, these days, Tony holds cash reserves in his building company in excess of 600,000 and takes regular holidays overseas with his beautiful wife and family. Now, it's a far cry from living hand to mouth, which is how a lot of residential home builders continue to operate even after spending years in the industry. So the 3 secrets I'm going to take you through today are how to motivate yourself by setting goals and avoid making the mistakes made by 83% of business owners who hold everything in their heads, how you can become more effective every single day and avoid becoming fatigued and burnt out, and how you can overcome your weaknesses and hit your goals by reprogramming your self-concept. So, secret number 1, how to motivate yourself by setting goals and avoid making the mistakes made by 83% of business owners who hold everything in their heads. So let me share a quick story with you. It was New Year's Day back in 1995. I was living in England at the time and married with 2 young kids. My wife and I, we'd always dreamed of moving to Australia, but we'd never talked about it seriously. So as you do in the company of friends and neighbors on New Year's Day, you talk about your goals and dreams for the next 12 months and beyond. And when we talked about our desire to move to Australia before our son's 13th birthday, I was immediately challenged by a neighbor from 2 doors down who asked me if I'd written this down as a goal. Now, I explained that although I didn't have it written down, it was very clear in my mind. So it was a goal that we were definitely working towards. Now, he responded with something that I remember to this day. He said, "A goal that isn't written down is only a dream." He said, "Do yourself a favor and write it down along with everything else that needs to happen in order for this to eventuate." Now, part of me felt like I'd been told off, but in another way, what he was saying completely resonated. We really wanted this to happen, so it made sense for us to do everything we could in order to succeed. So 2 days later, I was in my office, and although I'd been running my own business for the previous 10 years, I didn't really know too much about setting goals. So I simply made an entry in Lotus Organizer, which was an online diary that I looked at every single day. And I made a daily recurring entry that stated my target net worth and the goal to move to Australia before our son's 13th birthday on the 25th of October, 2006. Now, I knew I needed financial security in order to sell the business, pull up stumps, and then move to the other side of the world. So net worth was a key target that had to be achieved in order for us to make the move that we'd been dreaming about. Now, every working day, I looked at that goal. It was my why. It was the reason that I got out of bed in the morning and why I worked till late at night and came into the office on Sundays. It was the bigger picture that really drove me on. Even when we replaced Lotus Organizer with Microsoft Outlook, I still kept looking at those goals until around 2002, because in 2002, life was pretty good. We had the big house, the big company employing 50 staff. We had the cars, the holidays, and I was having a blast in my spare time racing sports cars. Now, Australia didn't really get spoken about at that point, and I'd stopped the repeating appointment in my calendar that listed out my goals because we'd achieved our net worth target and we were set for life. So I kind of thought, why take a chance and move countries? Now, 3 years later, on New Year's Day, 2006, we sat as a family talking about our goals and our dreams for the next 12 months and beyond. And we were keen to teach our kids the power of goal setting. So we pulled out our original goals from 1995. And when we looked at them, we realized that we'd achieved everything that we set out to achieve, except for one thing: moving to Australia before our son Kurt's 13th birthday. Now, at this point, Kurt hadn't turned 13 yet, but in 10 months' time, he would. So time was running out, but we still had a chance to make it happen. So we applied for a temporary visa to live in Australia. We put our house on the market and looked for a buyer for our business. And in one magical week in July, everything came together. We accepted an offer on our house, we signed contracts on our business, and then we received confirmation that our visas had been approved, all in a 7-day period. And then after working through a 3-month handover period for the business, we booked our flights for the 23rd of October, 2006. Now, we didn't realize it at the time, but due to the length of time it takes to fly to Australia from England, combined with the time difference, we ended up landing at 6:30 a.m. on the 25th of October, 2006. And as the plane touched down at Brisbane Airport, I remembered my neighbor from 11 years ago and the advice that he gave me: a goal that is not written down is merely a wish. Now, if you think that writing down your goals is unnecessary, then think again. The process of writing down goals allows your conscious mind to tell your subconscious mind what is important. Your subconscious mind then utilizes an internal filter called the reticular activating system in order to filter out what's not important. Now, you've seen this in action when you buy a new car. All of a sudden, you start seeing the same car everywhere. Now, there aren't suddenly lots of cars just like yours. They've always been there. You just didn't notice them because it wasn't important according to your internal filter. So when we look at our goals every day, our conscious mind tells our subconscious mind that this is important. And as a result, our RAS is notified and we start to see opportunities that will help us to achieve our goals. Now, equally, we may experience a negative gut feeling when we're acting in a manner that will not help us to get closer to our goals. Now, interestingly, a Harvard business study recently revealed some amazing statistics relating to goal setting and success. They found that 83% of business owners do not have any goals at all. 14% have a plan in mind. However, that plan was not written down anywhere. And only 3% of business owners have goals that are actually written down. Now, the study went on to find that the 14% who have goals are 10 times more successful than those without goals. Now, that is pretty impressive. However, the 3% with written goals are a staggering 30 times more successful than those without goals. So if you want to become part of the top 3% who are 30 times more successful than 83% of builders, you need to start writing down your goals. So that is how you motivate yourself, by setting goals and avoid making the mistakes made by 83% of business owners who hold everything in their heads. So are you getting this, guys? Do you see how easy it is to outperform your competition just by making some very small changes? Now, type in the chat box. Let me know if you're going to write down your goals. And more importantly, are you going to look at them every day. Now, I've got some tips for that, by the way, and we're going to get to that later, but just type in the chat box and let me know if you're going to start writing down your goals every day, and I'll take a quick sip. Cool. Thank you, guys. Good stuff. Okay, secret number 2. How to become more effective every single day and avoid becoming fatigued and burnt out. Now, in 2014, when we started the Association of Professional Builders, a lot of builders came to us because they needed more sales. When a builder needs more sales, it's typically because there are not enough referrals coming through and they don't know how to market their business. So what they really need is more leads. Now, generating new leads is fairly easy once you have the right strategy. So a lot of these builders soon had all the sales that they needed. However, a common problem then became overwhelm. Now, Craig, a custom home builder in Brisbane, now had more leads than he could keep up with. He had prospects waiting to sign contracts and more projects on the go than he could really manage. And he was working flat out 6 days a week, early morning till late at night. And when we spoke, he was totally burnt out and completely over it. He'd wake up in the morning and start dealing with the inevitable phone calls from his supervisor that only he could sort out. And throughout the day, he'd be dealing with clients, suppliers, and all while trying to reply to questions from those new prospects that were entering his sales funnel every single day. For Craig, there was no end in sight, and he was seriously thinking of scaling down or even going to work for another builder. Now, Craig was stuck working in his building company and he wasn't spending any time working on it. However, every day he spent his time putting out fires and taking phone calls and shunting everything on his to-do list over to the next day. Now, he knew that he needed to make time to work on the things that would take his business forward. But what I told him to do next really did take him by surprise. Because what he was doing at the time, it really wasn't working. So trying to do more of the same by working longer hours was not the answer. The priority for Craig was to work on himself before he worked on his building company. So we restructured his calendar to start with a run in the morning. In addition, Craig made the decision to completely cut out alcohol during the working week and reduce his sugar intake. Now, these two things not only gave Craig more energy, but they also improved his mental state by reducing his anxiety levels. The third thing we did was to create a daily ritual. When Craig arrived in the office after his morning run, the first thing he did was rewrite his goals for the year, the quarter, the month, and the week. And once he did that, his number one priority for the day became very clear. And at the end of each day, Craig would reflect on what he'd achieved, and he would then create a plan for the following day. So instead of starting each day on the back foot in reactive mode, Craig was able to take control of his life simply by introducing routines. Now, most successful business leaders make sure that they work out every day. Billionaire Richard Branson said recently that his morning ritual of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to play tennis has doubled his productivity. Now, every morning, most builders are getting started between 5 or 6 in the morning, and they keep going until, say, 5 or 6 in the evening. However, the amount of hours that you work has zero effect on your financial success. How many people do you know that do not work as hard as you, but are financially at least more successful? Think about it. Type in yes in the chat box if you know someone that doesn't work as hard as you, but financially they are more successful. We all know people like that. Now, Japan has some of the longest working hours in the world. And according to a government survey, nearly 1/4 of Japanese companies require their employees to work more than 80 hours of overtime a month. And despite this, Japan's productivity is around 2/3 that of the US, and it is the lowest of the G7 countries. Now, it's not how long you spend at work that counts. It's what you do when you're there that matters, which is why daily routines are just so important. So that is how you become more effective every single day and avoid becoming fatigued and burnt out. Are you getting this, guys? Do you see how it's not all about pushing yourself to work longer and harder? Because you achieve a lot more while working less when you manage your energy and work on the right things. So let me know in the chat box, how many of you have a daily ritual at the moment? And how many of you are gonna actually implement a daily ritual moving forward? Excellent. Cool. Good stuff. Okay. Secret number 3. This is a fascinating topic. It's about adjusting your self-concepts. Now, this is something that I learned from a sales trainer called Brian Tracy. It turns out we all have a self-concept of what we can and can't do. Some builders believe that they are not good at sales. For others, it may be marketing or even financials. What's interesting is the way people shut themselves off from trying to learn something they believe they cannot learn. Now, think about it. How much are you worth? Do you think you are worth more than the amount of money that you currently make each year? Let me know in the chat box. Are you worth more than the amount of money that you are currently earning from your building company? Let's be honest about this, because there is a direct relationship between your self-concept and your performance. Your self-concept is a collection of beliefs that you maintain about yourself. Self-concept is the way you see yourself and think about yourself in every area of your life. So if you want to change your life and how much money you make, you must change your self-concept. The fact is, you always perform in a way that is consistent with your self-concept. Every improvement in your life begins when you change your self-concept, which is your inner programming. For instance, if you have a high positive self-concept regarding selling, then making sales is not a problem for you. You start each day keen to call new leads, and you're comfortable when it comes to prospecting. So your sales funnel is invariably always full. However, if you have a poor self-concept with regards to selling, then you're going to feel anxious whenever you have to meet with a new client or follow up a lead or even ask for the sale, which means you will avoid following up opportunities whenever possible and prefer instead to wait until prospects reach out to you. And you'll probably avoid asking for the sale whenever you've presented a client with a prelim agreement or a contract proposal. Instead, you'll let the prospect walk away in order to think about it. And the very idea of prospecting your database to create new opportunities makes you feel tense and uneasy. You end up finding any excuse that will allow you to put it off, and you tell yourself that you don't need to do it or that it's a waste of time. Every builder already has a self-concept for the amount of money that they earn. And psychologists have found that you can never earn 10% more or less than your self-concept level of income. Now, bizarrely, they have found that people that earn 10% more than they think they're entitled to immediately engage in compensating behaviors in order to get rid of the money, which sounds mad until you look at the behaviors. If you have a great year and earn more than you expected to earn, you'll engage in compensating behaviors. and you'll have an irresistible urge to spend it on cars, boats, jet skis, or something else. The money will literally burn a hole in your pocket. And if you earn 10% below your self-concept level of income, you'll engage in scrambling behaviors. You'll probably work longer and harder in order to get your income back up to your comfort zone. And once you get into your comfort zone, then you'll relax and breathe a sigh of relief. The only way you can increase your sales is by expanding your comfort zone with regard to the amount you earn. Some builders have a comfort zone of 200,000 a year, and at that level, they relax and they coast. Others have a comfort zone of $1 million a year, and that is the level that they strive towards, and they only relax when they hit that target. So in order to change your life, in regards to your comfort zone, you must decide how much you are worth, because once you decide, your subconscious will act like a thermostat and maintain that level of income for you. It's important to be realistic when developing your new self-concept, especially at the beginning, because when I first learned about the power of the self-concept and how my self-concept controlled my income, I was earning around about $500,000 a year. And I immediately set my goal to 5 million a year. But instead of this big goal motivating me, the opposite happened. Instead of my subconscious going to work to find a way to earn that kind of money, it just shut down completely. To increase your income, you must change your self-concept and achieve your financial goals in your mind. Your aim should be to increase your self-concept level of income bit by bit until you think, you see, and you feel yourself as a high income earner. Imagine yourself as though you were already running the size of building company that you want to build, earning the kind of money that you want to earn. Look at other builders who are already earning more money than you and imagine that you are exactly like them. Step out of your comfort zone, change your mind and your self-concept if you want to earn what you deserve. Now, you may be thinking that all sounds great and I'm a very positive person. It's not that I'm bad at sales. I just never know what to say to a prospect, whether it be an email or on the phone or even by SMS. I just go blank and I end up letting them think about it. Well, if that's you, then the solution is simple. You just use templates, email templates for staying in touch, sales scripts for making calls, SMS templates for meeting reminders. When you use a sales process that includes scripts and templates, it's not about natural talent. It's about following the process. So that is how you overcome your weaknesses and hit your goals. And be honest, isn't that awesome? Are you getting how you can change your reality by just reprogramming your self-conscious? And how exciting is it that you have that amount of control over your own future? So type in the chat box and just let me know, is this resonating with you guys? Great stuff. Cool. Thanks, Winston. Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you became goal orientated, like I mentioned in Secret 1, and started writing down your goals so that you could outperform 83% of the other builders by a factor of 30. So not just better than 83% of other builders, but 30 times better. And then you implemented daily routines like I outlined in Secret 2, so that you become more effective every single day and avoid becoming fatigued and burnt out. And then you adjusted your self-concept like I outlined in Secret 3, so that you could overcome your weaknesses. Now, do you think you'd be able to increase your sales and grow your income? Type in the chat box and let me know, what was the number one thing that you got out of this presentation? What did you learn that you are now going to implement into your building company? Remember, you don't always need to build more homes in order to make more money, because by growing your demand, you can choose to either increase your margins and stay the same size, or take on more projects and grow your revenue. Natalie, goals, cool. Excellent. Okay, and for those of you who are on this presentation who are not currently members of the Association of Professional Builders, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you are excited about the opportunity that lies ahead of you right now? And how many of you are feeling a little overwhelmed right now because you've just realized how much needs to be done and how much can be done inside your building company? Now, right now, facing a downturn, that can be a little unnerving when you're the owner of a building company, and hearing everything that you need to do in a condensed presentation like this, it's not always easy to absorb everything first time. However, I've only covered some very basic fundamentals here of all the things that you can be doing in your business. There just isn't enough time to go into all the detail that I'd like to go into in just 40 minutes or so. But what I've done is I've just outlined some basics as much as I can for you. But this is the reason why it's so important to be a member of an association like the APB, so that you can receive the right guidance, advice, and training that will ensure your building company comes out of this dip as one of the winners rather than one of the losers. So is it okay with you guys if I spend the next 10 minutes or so going over what's included when you join the Association of Professional Builders, just so that you can make up your own mind as to whether you'd like to join us? Let me know in the chat while I grab a quick drink of water. And look, it's fine if you don't want to follow this advice. I've personally been in business through the last 3 major economic collapses that led to recessions in Europe. So I'm happy to share with you what needs to be done in order to survive. But if you'd rather go it alone, then that's fine. Just let me know in the chat box if you'd like to see not only what you get as a member, but also how it's helped other custom home builders just like you. Cool. Okay, guys, cool. So have you ever felt alone in your building company, or second guessed yourself over what you should be working on in order to increase your sales or improve your margins? Now, this is something we hear all the time from custom home builders.